Welcome. Today, I'd like to talk to you about program planning in public relations. So let me go ahead and share my screen and then we can get started. In the past, we've talked about research as the first step to public relations. This is the second. So today I'd like to talk about planning as the second step to public relations. And I also want to talk about the strategic planning checklist as well as elements of a plan. This is a reasonably short but very important conversation. So I hope you're paying attention and taking notes. The first question we should ask is, why do we plan? Honestly, we plan for everything in our lives. Why do we do that? We do that because if we don't know where we're going, we'll be pretty lost when we get there. That is something that you've heard before, and that is true for everything that we do in our lives. Same with public relations. So here's the value of planning. Strategic planning is deciding where you want to be in the future, which is your goal, and how to get there, which is strategies and tactics. So just keeping this in mind, let's move on and talk about some of the other conversations around planning and the importance of it. So planning really helps achieve organizational objectives. In the end, public relations helps the management achieve management and business objectives. So our goal is to make sure that whatever we do, we're able to help the organization achieve their goals. So any kind of planning, when we have an idea, a goal, an objective in terms of where we are going, it really sets the direction for us. And the key word here is really streamlining, right? So it streamlines all of the different things that we are doing, and then that's what helps us see the big picture. So think of it very much like that jigsaw puzzle that you're seeing on your screen here. You know, when you have all of the different parts put together, that's when you see the big picture. Okay. Planning is also all about coordinating multiple methods. So in public relations, there are so many different things that we do. We have to build relationships with the media. We have to put together events to achieve a specific goal. We put together press releases. We do social media stuff. We create brochures and flyers. Um, we hold media roundtables. Like we do all sorts of things with one goal in mind, right? And that is to achieve the organizational goals, right? So that's the idea of that's our goal as public relations professionals, and planning helps us get there. Uh, so let's quickly look at what a strategic planning checklist could look like. When we are public relations experts, we have to ask ourselves multiple questions to make sure that we're on the right track and that we're doing things that fit that strategic direction that we're trying to take for the client. Number one, client objectives. Why are we putting this communication together? Okay. If there is a proposal that we're putting together or a plan, why are we doing it? So understand what the client's objectives are and work toward those objectives. If the client doesn't have one set objective, you first ask the client, what is it that we are trying to achieve here? That kind of strategy puts you on the right track. Number two, audience objectives. It's extremely important to know who the target audience is. Okay, who are we reaching out to and what do they care about? Sometimes if we don't know who our audience is, then we try to share information. We do it in all different ways, cast this big general net, and you realize that your communication is not very effective. Like nobody's really picking it up. It's because you're all over the place, right? Know who your client is, know what they're all about, know who likes them, who follows them, who cares about them. and try to build all the communication that you do to to that particular audience. Okay, so really important to ask, who are we reaching out to? What are they interested in? Because we have to create communication that they're interested in. Number three, media channel objectives. Okay, so how do we reach these people, right? If it's an older generation, do they really care about TikTok? Do they even care about Instagram? No, they're Facebook people, right? Do they do a lot of digital stuff? If it's a much older population, they're still reading newspapers. They love their newspapers. It's beloved to them. Um, so try to connect with them there, where they are, where they live, right? It is really important what those media channel objectives look like. Ask yourself, how do we reach out to this audience that it follows this brand or follows our organization or cares about them, right? Finally, communication strategies. Okay, what kind of communication are you going to create, right? Uh, what is the message designed to do? What's the impact your messaging is supposed to have, right? So ask questions like that to really kind of narrow down and find a direction in terms of where you are heading. Because if you don't know where you're going to be lost when you get there. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the elements of a program plan. But what is the point of a program plan? Let's start there and then get into the elements. A PR plan identifies what is to be done, why do we need to do it, and how do we do it? Okay, so those are the questions that we are asking. Most often, you put together a program plan proposal for your client or your prospective client's approval. And if they make certain changes, make those changes, get it approved again. And once it's ready to go and approved 100%, that's when you start implementing the campaign. Often, every every little thing that you create for the plan should get an approval before it's put out there, for the general public or the specific public to enjoy. Okay, so just the takeaway for this particular slide here, a PR plan identifies what you need to do, why do you need to do it, how are you going to do it? Okay, so those are the three things to remember. Okay, let's move on and talk about the elements of a program plan. Really important, please take notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to talk about these 8 elements briefly, and that's what's going to conclude our video today. Okay, so situation, objectives, audience, strategy, tactics, calendar, budget, and evaluation. Okay, so let's start off with the first one, and that is situation. Okay, so sometimes an organization may be dealing with a bit of a crisis and they need to overcome the problem. And we do public relation programming to help them do that. So we would put together a plan saying, this is your issue, and we're going to put together a public relations plan to overcome this issue. We're going to come up with interesting strategies and tactics to get your company back in order. So Lululemon, for example, had one of that similar remedial program situations where I don't know if you remember, but there was a point where their pants, their yoga pants, they're known for their yoga pants, they were sheer, and these yoga pants cost a lot of money. It's like $100 or something for one pair of pants. And then they were sheer. So people were just very upset about it. And eventually Lululemon had to come out and say, okay, yes, they were sheer. It's our problem. We're going to fix this problem. So that's what we call a remedial program. So, understand what the situation is that your client is in and what you're trying to do to help them. Okay. It could also be, a situation where it's just a big launch, right? IBM is launching a new AI computer system or some software, right? And we're throwing a big event to and inviting all the media to come and talk about this new AI, program that we've come up with, and we want all the media to like share it outside to their publics, so more people get to know about it. So we're just going to throw a big party, right? So that also could be a situation. It's a one-time program, just a big party to launch a product, to launch a service. And then eventually, let's say the launch happens and then you want to continue to stay top of mind, then you would be doing other PR programs, right? But the eventual, that's later, but the first big one is just a launch for a new product. So that could be also, if it's not a remedial program, it's not a crisis-based program, then it's actually a launch or a service that of a product or a service that needs to be out there for more people to know about. Okay, so that's situation. Number 2, objectives. There could be either informational objectives or motivational objectives. So sometimes the idea is to just expose people to a specific kind of information, an awareness of an issue, an awareness of an event or a product. Sometimes that objective could be more persuasive in nature, like a motivational objective, hoping to change people's attitudes about something. And often in those kinds of cases, we first do a baseline research. So we'll do a research thing to see what are people thinking about this thing right now. Then we implement the campaign, and then we do another round of research to see if there has been a lift, right? That people are thinking differently about a specific brand or issue or a perception of that organization. Okay, so your objective could be informational, which is more to just share information or to just build awareness, to sustain it and to keep top of mind, or it could be a more motivational. I'd like to change the way somebody's thinking about my brand and make sure that they like it. If they have been a little opposed to it before, that now they're more open to accepting. Okay, so those are the two different kinds of objectives. Okay. Exposure does not necessarily lead to awareness. This is an important point, right? So if you just do some social media stuff and you hope that, okay, now more people have seen my campaign, or you've done, a press release campaign and maybe 10 different media companies, newspapers and digital, like they pick it up, and you think, okay, now everybody knows about us, right? The truth is that's just not how it works. You got to do a lot more. So the message has to be viewed multiple times. It has to be really internalized for people to have any impact on behavior. So the more you do and the more impactful you are as you continue to build that awareness, higher the chance that that message is internalized and people start loving the brand and connecting with it at an emotional level. Okay. The next element is audience. Know very well who your audience is. And this is a rookie mistake that a lot of us make, that you don't specify who your audience is. So when you start creating your campaigns, you're all over the place and you're not attracting the people who really may be the right fit, could be potential customers for your brand. So understand who your audience is. If you are talking about a specific kind of people, right? It could be bikers, it could be coffee enthusiasts, it could be wine drinkers, right? So target very much, understand through market research, of course, and then target based on that information. There are many different software, and we've talked about that in our research videos. There are many software out there that a company can subscribe to. and you pay a bunch of money, but they eventually are very helpful, from MRI and ComScore to zip code analysis, knowing who lives where, in which area, and what do they drive, and what do they wear, and what do they buy, all of that stuff. So the more you know about that stuff, the more targeted you are in your messaging as well. And if you know who you're targeting, then your entire strategies, the nuts and bolts, the tactics, all of that will depend on that. So it's really important to know your audience before you move into anything else. It also would save the company a bunch of money because you would do more targeted, and instead of a larger audience. Okay. So often people would say, well, there could be two different kinds of audiences here, right? So there could be a primary audience and a secondary audience. So something to remember as you, think through, and you're going to have eventually maybe some kind of campaign that you're working on that will require you to know and narrow down your audience for specific things. Okay. So let's say you could even narrow it down to wine drinkers who care about food and wine, read the Food and Wine magazine, you know, believe in giving back to the community, care about personal growth. All right, so we're talking not just demographics, uh, in terms of where do they live, what their income is, what their gender is, but you are talking about psychographics, right? That the little minute details about what they drink and what they eat and why do they like A over B, things like that. So the more specific you are, it helps. Most campaigns will have two different audiences, right? So you have the main audience, which is like all these people who are really into wine, right? For example, in this conversation. But there would be a secondary audience of people who are not wine drinkers, but they like alcohol, right? So that could be your secondary audience. So for anything that you do, you really need to think about that, right? Let's say there is a golf course, and they want to make extra money by renting out space on their golf course, right? So maybe there's an event room. And so they're thinking, well, we want more people to be golf club members, which is an expensive proposition to begin with, but also rent out our event space. So they decide that my primary audience is probably an organization, corporation that has enough money to get themselves a golf membership and to treat their employees, right? So maybe they buy membership for their organization, which is a huge sum of money, and they would also perhaps use the event space. But then for the golf course, the secondary public is normal people who can afford a golf membership, individual golf membership, and who play on a regular basis. So golf enthusiasts who can afford it. So keep in mind that there's always two different audiences as or more primary and secondary audiences, as you're putting your strategies together. Okay. Enough about that. Let's move on to strategy. So the question you're asking here is, how will my objective be achieved, right? So the business has goals. The organization that you're working for has business goals, and they have to, you have to help them achieve those goals. Okay, so how will my objective, my company's objective, be achieved? These are the things that you want to ask yourself as you put together a strategy. What is my end game? So in the end, what do we want? What do we want from the work that we are doing? Do we want to help our organization sell more products or services? Do we want our organization's brand image lifted, reputation management? Ask yourself. That's really important because that would kind of narrow things down. Okay. And as we've talked about, who is your audience? Identify the audience. And finally, what are we trying to communicate? What should this target audience remember about your brand? What is their takeaway, right? So those are the things that you're asking as you are putting stuff together. What's my end game? Who is my audience? What is my key messaging? Right. Then we're going to talk about tactics. Now, these are the nuts and bolts of a campaign. So what are the activities that are going to help me achieve this objective? So what it does is that it operationalizes the strategy. Okay, so this is like the real stuff. Like, okay, we want to, we want to use digital strategies to achieve a specific objective, right? Now, within that digital strategy, I'd like to use social media, and that's a tactic. Okay, so it operationalizes the strategy by generating innovative ideas. And we'll get a little bit into this in our slides that follow. So let me give you this example. Okay, so some years ago, Doritos, the chip company, with chips that you can't resist, right? Doritos wanted to increase Doritos sales. Okay, so they really wanted to do something interesting and big, and they had the budget to do it. So their strategy, now pay attention to this because I'm now starting to slowly differentiate for you the difference between tactic and strategy, okay? To engage and motivate our core loyal consumer base. That is their strategy, okay? We want to connect better and build better relationships with our consumer base that's already loyal to us. That's the strategy. Their tactic is, okay, how am I going to engage and motivate my loyal consumer base? I'm going to invite people to create Super Bowl ads. And this is exactly what they did. And you may have seen it. It was in the Super Bowl, a few years ago. Just before the Super Bowl, they had this really big campaign. And they said, all you guys come up with some great ads and send them to us. The ad that wins is going to get $1 million, and we're going to showcase your ad on Super Bowl day during the game. Okay. Now, Super Bowl ads are really expensive, probably a few $1 million for a 30-second commercial. Plus, they were going to give $1 million to the person who actually created the ad. So they had a very big budget. So they were able to do something like this. And this is very much a PR stunt, right? It's a PR event here. But what I wanted for you to pay close attention to is look at the campaign objective. That's a business objective. Look at the strategy. It's about engaging and motivating their loyal consumers. And how do we do that? That's the nuts and bolts, which is the tactic. We're going to come up with this cool idea and invite people to do this cool thing. And that's going to really engage and motivate our consumer base and over time increase the sales of our Dorito chips, which it did. But that's just kind of how it works. Okay, let me do another one because this is really important to pay attention to the difference between strategy and tactic. Okay. Suave, as you know, is a beauty product, right? You get Suave like shampoos and body washes and things like that. Okay, so Suave wants to increase the sales of a new product line. Okay, so that is a business objective. How does PR help? PR says, well, okay, you want to increase sales? We're going to build awareness. okay, for your new product line, we're going to build awareness. And we've narrowed it down. We know how we're going to do it. We have a target audience in mind because that's what this product line is all about. And that's what we're going to do. Okay. So the strategy is build awareness. What's the tactic? The tactic is let's get an influencer and we'll get him or her to talk real time about this new product line. We'll do this whole demo in the store. We'll make this record it, right? And then we'll make that video shareable and let people like share it out. Let the influencer share it out to his or her following. And that's how we're going to create awareness. Okay. Obviously, you're going to do more than one tactic, right? One influencer is just one of the many things that you would do. Influencers who have a lot of reach, who have a lot of engagement, they charge a lot of money, but often these things work when you're trying to promote something new and to create buzz around it, right? So again, my goal was to help you understand the difference. What's an objective, business objective, connected to the business SWAVs, in this case, organizational goals of sales. The PR strategy, informational, just build awareness. That's what we're trying to do here. Get people to know about this product. And how are we going to do it? We're going to feature somebody famous, talk about our product, and we would put him or her in a store, and then we'll record that video and we're going to put it out there and hope that it goes viral. Okay, so PR strategy, PR tactic. Hopefully it's clear in terms of how we are breaking this up. Okay, let's move on to the next element, and that is a calendar. Now, we all use calendars, Google Calendar, Apple Calendar. Oh, I don't know, maybe even a book, right? Some of us use that as well. But it's really important to put things down and to plan what we will share when, right? In which order, on what dates. So timing, of course, of the campaign is really important. When is that key message going to be most impactful? Ask yourself that question. Let's say you have a product that is popularly used by students. Well, back to school, is that time is a big time, right? There's lots of campaigning that happen around that time. And so you want to just say, okay, I got to backtrack it. This is the back to school weekend. This is when people buy most of their supplies. That's when you see Target having a section on back to school or Office Depot or whatever, right? And so you're saying, okay, I got to start the campaigning a month before or 2 months before, and I got to lead up to that. All social media campaigns can be programmed and put, right? This is going to go live here. This is going to go live on this day. This is going to go live on this day, this time. All of that, right? People do that for their Valentine Day promotions as well, right? They would do that for Thanksgiving. They would, I mean, it's you just have to plan it really well. So timing of the campaign is really important. Scheduling how you want to do it. PR often, when it comes to working with the marketing department, right? So you want to do advertisements as well. You want to do PR. You want to do a lot of other kinds of things. They often tend to front load public relations because it's a great way to break that awareness barrier. Like people immediately are paying attention to like, oh, what is this? What's happening? Create that excitement around something, build awareness around that, and then over time throw in the ads and things like that, which is more advertising and marketing departments. But PR often comes first. It's always front loaded. Once we do that, then all the ads and all can keep the momentum going. But the real energy often comes through public relations. Okay, so advanced planning is very important to do. We post activities for every at least once a month, a few times a month, every day. It really depends on what the time frame is, and how close you are to the final day, and what are all the things that you do to lead up to that. Okay, so this is a marketing timeline more or less. But I just wanted to, I want you to find where PR is in this picture. So it is definitely front loaded. It is it happens in phase one. As you can see, week 1, week 2, week 3, that's phase one. And we tend to front load it because it is a lot more impactful when we do it then. Okay, so we obviously are seeing some social media stuff, which in my opinion comes pretty close to the work that we do with public relations. Often they're connected. And more we're seeing marketing as a department has public relations as part of it. So that's sort of been the changing trend for us. We don't PR is not a standalone role. It's very much a part of marketing. But it's you need a special kind of expertise in terms of how you're writing something, how you're delivering it. And so that's what we're hoping that you learn with a video like this, with the public relations class like this one. So this is what the timeline looks like. Some of it is also, it's called a Gantt chart. If you look it up online on Google, you would see it has a very similar feature, similar look and feel, GANTT. But it's so important to plan and program. And it's great that we see a lot of the social media platforms already giving us those options to do more or less for free, so that we can program what goes when and plan out better. All right, we got 2 more slides, and this is the next conversation here is the budget, which is one of the elements. So, I mean, bigger companies have bigger budgets to put together a plan, but labor is expensive, talent is expensive. So a lot of this is actually just staff time, just making sure that things are happening. Just in, things are smooth, that we have a strategy, we have all these tactics lined up, press releases have to be written, press kits, which we will get into at some point, need to be compiled, and just writing takes effort, planning takes effort. And they're really important to do as well. So obviously your budget is something that you need to include as part of your PR plan. Sometimes the client will tell you this is our range. Sometimes you go to them and say, based on what you're hoping to achieve, this is how much it could cost. Now, if you take some of these other portions out, then this is how much it's going to cost. So just that's a conversation that you would have to have. And of course, then there is a out-of-pocket expense, right? So if you're printing something at actuals, you need to say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. Or, if you're designing press kits, which, over the years, it has been changing and we see a lot more digital stuff. But in the past, it was always creating folders, and folders that opened up like that. And you would put like press kit materials in there, create those and give those to the media. So all of that cost a lot of money. And that's what that OOP, or out-of-pocket expenses, that we're talking about. Okay, and finally, let's talk about evaluation. Okay, so let's say you've put together a plan, you've got it approved by the client, you've implemented the plan. You want to now know, how did you do, right? How did we do? How did we fare? Were we successful in achieving the objectives that we set? Right? Were we able to achieve them? So that's the final part of your PR plan. Evaluate that objective. So if it's an informational objective, it's really about, okay, we did all this awareness-based PR work. This is the compilation of all of the things all the coverage that we got. Like the media picked it up. This is where they published it. These were the things that they talked about. All of that information needs to be put together and evaluated. And then eventually, did it bring to some kind of brand lift, right? I mean, was it a good exercise in reputation or perception management? If it's a motivational campaign, then you're trying to persuade someone to do something. Well, you did all this PR stuff. Was there any motivational, was there any change in the way people perceived something? Did people buy more stuff if that was your objective? Did people call a number if that was your objective? So understand what your program objective was and all of the stuff that you did, and eventually did it help, right? Did all of this communication, these PR tactics that we came up with to satisfy strategies to eventually achieve some objective goals, did it get anywhere? Okay, so we've in this video talked about different elements of a plan, and we went through situation, objectives, audience, strategy, tactics, calendar, budget, and evaluation. And hopefully this gives you a perspective into what a program plan in public relations looks like. Thank you.